European brands may be struggling to keep up with the speed and the technology of their Chinese counterparts, but there's one thing they have that the Chinese don't, and that is heritage. And they're leaning right into it. This is Inside China Auto, and this is the Renault 4. Yes, this is the new Renault 4, and you may be wondering, why am I covering a French car on a Chinese car channel? I would simply say because I have the opportunity to do so. This car is not available in China, and my subscribers will know that I'm currently back in the UK for a few months. And so what I wanted to do was try some of the cars that I don't have access to in China, see how the European brands are doing with their electric cars, and also see how the European brands that are leaning into their legacy are doing. What they're doing really, really well that Chinese brands can't master, and what they're doing that's not quite as good as the Chinese. So I'm going to be a direct comparison with a Chinese car. I'm going to judge it entirely on its own merits, as I would normally, but I was just very curious to see how the European brands are doing. Now, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. If you think we should just stick to Chinese cars, that's an option. If you think we should check out other cars from outside China, again, let me know. I would love to hear your opinion on that. And if you do like this video, do consider subscribing when you get towards the end. But let's talk about the main event today, which is of course the Renault 4. A modern reinterpretation of one of Renault's iconic designs, one of Renault's older iconic designs, I would say, because the Renault 4 is, I would say, I think it's from the 50s and 60s, that kind of age. It was quite a tall-sided, really kind of Renault's version of the Citroën 2CV, let's say, which was kind of somewhere between a wagon, a hatchback, and a very, very early SUV before SUVs even existed. And I think they've done a fantastic job with the modernisation of this design, probably one of the more difficult jobs, taking a car with such interesting proportions and making that into something that really works in the modern day. You may think that this car has a very similar stance to the new Renault 5. And I would agree, this is essentially a little bit bigger. I'll come on to the dimensions in a little bit. But let's talk about the details on the design. The original Renault 4 came with kind of a looped grille with the headlamps inset into that. We get the same thing here with cool little details, little Renault 4 logos in there. We get a daytime running light all the way around the front, which of course the original will not have had, and a light up badge. Some countries won't allow that, but we do have that in the UK. We get these kind of lovely bonnet scallops, again, very reminiscent of the original Renault 4. The original Renault 4 did have kind of grills under the windscreen, which was really quite vertical back then. Obviously, we don't have that on modern cars, so they have been moved down here onto the bonnet. It's a fairly large bonnet, this. It doesn't mean that we get a front though, so there's no front under there. It's full of electrical gubbins. It is a front wheel drive car and quite a fun one to drive, which I'll come on to later. And yeah, I mean, other details, we get quite a bit of tech on this car. So we get some cameras up there, we get some ultrasonic sensors. There may be a radar in here somewhere because this is the top edition, which means that we get adaptive cruise control for the highways. Again, I'll come on to that during the driving section. We also get automatic parking, by the way, which again, I will come on to later. Now you can, by the way, get this bonnet in black, which the original version didn't have. Not entirely sure why you would want it in black, but the option is there if you would like. A lot of options on this car, by the way. Again, something different from the Chinese brands. They don't tend to do a lot of options, but we do get that on this car. Very funky 18-inch wheels. All versions of the Renault 4 come with 18-inch wheels, which is great. They fit really, really well with the proportions of this car, give it a fantastic stance, really kind of quite compact and chunky at the same time. We get kind of a lovely two-tone design there. I think all the wheels look really quite cool on this car. And we get a 10.1 meter turning circle, I believe. So it is really quite nimble in tight areas. We get our charging port on the front here. This one comes with 100 kilowatt DC charging. The Renault 5, for comparison, I think only gets 80. So this one does charge faster with its DC charging. Lovely little French details in there, little logos and stuff. We get a black roof. That is standard on all versions. You can have the body colour as an optional choice. We get roof racks. In the summer, as a new version of the Renault 4 coming out that will have a fabric pullback soft top roof on there, similar to what you'll get on a Fiat 500. Again, something the original Renault 4 did have. That'll be a really cool feature when we get that one. Funky details down the side, these kind of like ribbed metallic pieces, again, eschewing some of the design of the original Renault 4. I really like this because the Renault 4 did have very weird doors that continue to come outwards towards the back. They've done the same thing here, which again looks really, really funky. Good nod to the original. Quarter lights on there, again, those lovely wheel arches that are nicely squared off. One thing I should say about this car compared to the Renault 5, you may be wondering about the size. So it's about 22 centimeters longer. It's the same width. It's about 5 to 7 centimeters taller, and it also has about 8 centimeters of additional wheelbase. Bear in mind, the original Renault 4, this is true, had a different wheelbase on both sides of the car. So one side was shorter than the other by a little tiny amount. How weird is that? That's a little funky car fact. If you're a car nerd, check it out. It's real. I'll show you a picture on the screen. So yeah, that's the Renault 4 from the front. At the back, we get more nods to the original Renault 4 design, particularly in the side profile, where Renault have done a very good job of mimicking the diagonal slant of the rear boot lid on the Renault 4. You may think it looks quite similar to a Mini Countryman. To be fair, that is a modern interpretation of a hatchback that came out in the 60s, and most 60s hatchbacks did have vertical tail lamps. So this car has very similar tail lamps, but they've done a good job with the details. Lovely Renault 4 logo on the side. They've broken up the ring to make it more visually interesting. Some horizontal details in there as well, and some nice details here around this Renault logo in the middle. We get a big spoiler and a little rear window wiper. Funky Renault 4 logo. On the top version of this car, we get an electronic boot lid. Do watch out for the bits of boot lid that stick out. They'll take your eye out if you're not careful. In here, probably the biggest difference between this car and the Renault 5 is the additional practicality. 420 litres of space in here, about 100 more than you'll get in a Renault 5. You can flip up the boot floor individually on each side, and you get this funky removable bucket you can take out as well. I can just see a French villager going to the market and filling that with veg and then carrying it into their house. So a nice practical little detail that I haven't necessarily seen on a Chinese car before. Bit of extra space on either side and some kind of French flag bands on either side as well. You can of course fold down the rear seat 60-40. Definitely not flat. In fact, I have wondered what's going on, why the seat base cushion doesn't flip up on more electric cars. Why do they not do that anymore? Anyway, up to 1,405 litres of space if you fold that down, so pretty useful in there. We can also, by the way, get towing capacity, so we get a tow ball on this car for up to 750 kilograms of towing capability. Now, packaging on the outside, very good. Inside, let's have a look. Bonjour et bienvenue à l'intérieur de la Renault 4. Now that I've offended everybody in France, apologies for that, let's talk about the interior, which is very quirky and really quite weird. You may have spotted, I brought a prop with me. It is this baguette, because we've got a baguette holder. This is a lovely wicker baguette holder, £120 option. Bit expensive, if you ask me, but one of the many customization options you get in the Renault 4 to make it yours and make it a bit unique. Of course, that's something a Chinese brand wouldn't have because they don't have baguettes. In China, you can buy them, but of course, it's a French thing. So that's kind of quite funky, quite weird. I'm taking the baguette out so you can see what's going on over here, because there's a lot going on. It's a very weird car, this, in some ways. I'm going to tell you about it. So, steering wheel, quite normal. 5 buttons on either side, 2 toggle switches, multi-sense button, which I'll come on to later. We've got an on-off switch, so you have to turn the car on and off. A lot of electric cars don't do that. Renault sticking with that. We've got our indicators and lights on this side, wipers on that side. So far, so good. We then get a totally different stalk for our drive selector that looks very avant-garde and interesting. Doesn't have a park button on it. To put the car in park, you've got to press the parking handbrake button down here or turn the car off to put it in park, which again just feels a bit different from how everybody else does it. And then we've got more. Even further down on the right side of the steering wheel, we've got our volume buttons and our source thing. A kind of again, a different piece that looks like it's from a different car completely. Very similar to what you had on a Renault Scenic back in 1997. So instead of having volume on the steering wheel, we've got it down the back over here. And it's just too much going on. When you're trying to change gear, making a quick maneuver in a parking space, for example, sometimes you're putting the wipers on by accident. Sometimes the drive selector itself doesn't actually give you what you want. So you've got to make sure you put it in the gear that you want. Otherwise, you're going to drive forward when you think you're in reverse. So again, be careful of that. But it's very weird. A lot of stuff going on. We also get paddle shifters to change our brake regen as well. Now, we do get one pedal mode, which is great. But yeah, just a lot of things going on here. Doesn't feel particularly cohesive. They all look different. But that's kind of the French experience, and I kind of like it. It's also kind of annoying at the same time. Right, let's talk about our screens. As you can see, very different layout from our normal Chinese cars. We've got our screens oriented towards the driver. 10-inch screen there, 10-inch screen here. This one runs Renault's R-Link system. It's got Google inside, so it's got a Google Assistant you can talk to that I believe has ChatGPT 4-like qualities, but not much. You've got Google Maps on there. We've got our vent controls across the bottom, but you can't touch those on the screen because your physical switches are down here for your ventilation control. So you've got to touch these ones down here to change what's going on up there. We get our heated steering wheel and heated front seats. They're only available on the top edition, the iconic version of the Renault 4. And then really fairly simple menus on here. You've got your media, you've got your phone, you've got apps in there. You do get a Play Store, you get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so you get the that connectivity between those devices, and you can download other apps as well. And then you've got fairly simple menus in here for configuring your different car options, and weirdly your hands-free park assist, which you get on the top two versions of this car, is in there rather than on the steering wheel, and I'll come on to that during the driving section. So interesting screen, quite bright graphics, quite interesting to look at. Fairly simple, but it works. And then we've got our bright screen ahead of the driver as well. This has our usual driving functions on, things like that. It's a lot. It's bright. If you change your drive modes with the multi-sense button here, you get Eco, Comfort, Sport, and Perso. That changes the color of your graphics on the screen. Also changes on the top edition only your ambient lighting up here. You got your Renault 4 and your lights on there. You get a few lights down there as well, so it kind of customizes the car to the mode that you're in, and you can configure that in this page here as well. This screen, by the way, also has buttons on top to turn it on and off and change your volume up there. So if you want to change the volume up there rather than down here, you can do that. I don't think either of them are particularly great. Speaking of volume, you get, I think it's called I forget the name now, what was it called? Arcanis sound system on the normal versions. On the top edition, you get Harman Kardon speakers, 9 of them. Weirdly, they don't brand them as Harman Kardon. So we've got the top edition. I can't see Harman Kardon logos anywhere. And usually Chinese cars are quite big about shoving those logos all over the car. So that's quite cool as well. Now, the weird things continue. So in terms of materials, we get a mix of good stuff and not so good stuff. Hard plastic, hard plastic, hard plastic, hard plastic. There's quite a bit of that going on in the Renault 4, but we get some faux leather on here with lovely contrast stitching, little Renault logo on there. Very cool seats. I mean, these are fantastic. Chunky side bolsters. We get, I think it's called shark tooth fabric in here. The two base versions, I believe, get fabric seats. On the top edition, we get this shark tooth fabric, which you also get in the door over here. We get contrast stitching. We get kind of a checkered pattern with faux leather on there. We get French flag in there, and they're great seats. Really good, very comfortable, very funky design. Something that I don't think you get in any Chinese cars that's quite as cool as that. Adjustability, not particularly high. Forwards and backwards, up and down manually, and your backrest adjustment as well. On the top edition, we also get electronic lumbar support. That's the only electronic support we get for this. We do get electronic mirrors and electronic windows. The steering rack is manual, which is as I like it. And the driving position itself is good. I feel like I'm quite low down the car. The dashboard is wrapped around me. Visibility is good around most of the car as well. And the reach is pretty good on the steering as well. So driving position is good. I'm happy with the way things are there. It's just that it's very quirky in lots of different ways in here. We do get a wireless charger, not entirely sure how fast because it doesn't say. We get 2 USB-C sockets down there, a little bit of extra weird storage there and here. Pair of cup holders, you can get some different bright coloured tops for that you might want to put on your coffee or to put storage there or something like that. Lots of different customization options that you can buy for the Renault 4. A little bit of storage space in there as well, but not a great deal. Overall, I mean, it is fairly compact, more so when we get into the back. We don't get a panoramic roof, as you can see. Of course, I mentioned that we will get that fabric roof option at some point later in the year. What we do get though is this very funky patterned roof, which is check pattern, like this on the seats here. Reminds me of our Renault 18 we used to have when I was a kid that had diamond patterns in the roof. I liked that. No one does patterned roofs anymore, so that's kind of cool. It does feel a little bit dark in here though, as a result. Again, particularly so in the back. Another thing, the glove box, by the way, we get a small glove box because, as on most French cars, they haven't bothered moving the fuses across to the right side. They also haven't bothered moving the bonnet opening to the right side. So that's also over there on the passenger side. So overall, it's a funky, cool car with some frustrations, but with some pretty decent stuff as well. Like the materials, infotainment is quite good, driving position, very nice, but yeah, it's kind of weird. Now for the rear seats, I'm going to show you climbing in because it's not an easy process. I'm only 5'10". It's not very spacious in here. That seat is where I would have it when I'm driving. I haven't moved it. I've got basically a finger's width of space between my knees and the back of the front seat. My feet are where they are. They're not moving. They can't go backwards, they can't go forwards. Front seat is as low as it'll go, admittedly. I'd have a bit more toe room if it was lifted up. But as low as it'll go, there is no space for my feet. So I'd have to ask them to sit a bit higher, ideally. Headroom, also not massive. I mean, it's fine. There's, you know, about 2 fingers width above my head. But it does feel a little bit more claustrophobic because we don't have a panoramic roof. When that ragtop roof comes, that will be a little bit better, I think, maybe, but it's still going to be black when it's closed. So yeah, it's not exactly spacious back here. These rear seats really, really more suited for kids, I would say. In terms of amenities, we get seat back pockets for your phone and some magazines. We get 2 USB-C sockets. We get a ridiculously deep pocket under there for some reason, maybe for putting an umbrella in, I don't know. We get electric windows, we get our rear seat speakers, and that's pretty much it. Not a great deal of space, not a great deal of stuff to do, but that's okay. It's an affordable car. You don't usually get stuff in the back. Isofix mountings though, these are a high point, very good, easy access there, pop those up, lovely. Yeah, I think if I was a kid, I'd probably feel okay back here, but as an adult, it feels a bit tight. My wife's only 5'3" or 5'4". Even she said she feels a bit claustrophobic in the back. So yeah, the packaging, not great, to be honest, in the back of the Renault 4, but I'm sure it'll be better to drive. Fortunately, while Renault haven't really moved on the electric car game quite as much as you would expect from a brand that was really one of the early movers in electric cars. They had the Fluence and the Zoe way back in 2009 when I was in university. Fortunately, they haven't forgotten how to make a wonderfully characterful small car. The 4, and I suspect the 5 is similar, is an absolute joy to drive. Take it down a country road, you have total dependency. You can throw it into corners, you know the nose is going to stick, it will stay flat, there's no wobbling around, you're getting plenty of feedback through the steering wheel, it's got a good amount of weight, got more if you put it into sport mode, and it's precise. It delivers exactly what you would expect from a small Renault. It feels like a Renault hot hatch, especially with the electric drivetrain, which is not super quick, but is plenty zippy enough. It gives you so much joy. If you love driving, you might miss out on some of the other stuff that you get in some of these cheaper Chinese cars with the Renault 4, but you will at least love the driving part because it's just fantastic. It's, as a not massively powerful, you get 112 kilowatt motor on the front axle, 150 horsepower, 245 newton meters of torque. So it's probably got less power therefore than, you know, even a Clio 182 Sport from back in the day, but it's enough. It'll do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour or 62 miles per hour in 8.2 seconds. Sounds pretty slow on paper. When you're in the car, doesn't feel that slow at all. It's nippy, it's quick, it's got a 10.8 meter turning radius, so it's really good in urban areas and car parks and things like that. It's a very, very enjoyable car to drive, this one. You're just going to feel alive when you do so. Now, When it comes to the batteries and the charging, we have a little bit more of a Jekyll and Hyde situation. All versions come with a 52 kilowatt hour LFP battery. Good size battery for this car. Has a claimed WLTP range of 249 miles. Now Renault says at motorway speeds, that's 175 miles of range. Last week I did better than that. I picked this car up from Renault's headquarters in London last week. I had a 194 mile drive home, and when I got the car it said it had 194 miles of range. It did say though I would need to charge before I got home. I got it all the way back to Wigan on a single charge. I had aircon on because it was the hottest day of the year so far, and I still had 38 miles of range left in the battery. That's impressive. So it outdid what Renault said that it could do. Yes, there was a lot of dynamic speed limits, there's a lot of traffic and slowing you down, but it is possible. And that didn't include any stops. I didn't stop to go to the bathroom or anything like that. So really, really good on the range. It's pretty good around town as well in the rest of the driving that I've done. I'm now trying to repeat that test, taking it back to London to see if I can do it for a second time, make sure it wasn't just a fluke. The charging, slightly different. I charged it yesterday on a 50 kilowatt charger. It should have DC fast charging of 100 kilowatts, 15 to 80% in 30 minutes. Yesterday the charging was pretty good. I'd been driving for a bit longer, so the battery was probably warmer. Today, cold start to the day, did 15 minutes of driving, took it to a 300 kilowatt charger, never got over 34 kilowatts of charging. Now, if I had the app, I could have preconditioned the car with the heat pump in advance and probably done better than that. I don't have the app for the car, so I wasn't able to precondition it. That's probably why it was slower, but it was considerably slower than what it should be. It should be able, I mean, yesterday I got 50 kilowatts out of it, no problem, on a 50 kilowatt charger. Couldn't get over 34 at any point between 22 and 97%, which took me an hour and 17 minutes. So the charging side doesn't seem to be quite as dependable. I would say, if you get the chance, use the heat pump. That might make things better. Now, the ADAS on this, we get adaptive cruise control. Works pretty well. Through all that traffic, I was able to just leave that on. The car would start and stop for me, kept a good distance to the cars in front. It doesn't accelerate when you indicate to change lanes to get past someone who's going slower than your preset speed. But apart from that, I said it was a good, dependable system. It hasn't had any of these phantom braking issues that I've had in a lot of other cars. So that works, and that's good. And you can, by the way, also get a grade for your driving ability in the system. It'll tell you how well you're anticipating things, how well you're accelerating, how well you're cornering, all that kind of stuff. So that's quite useful as well. Now, this car comes in 3 different versions. You get Evolution Plus, Techno Plus, and Iconic Plus. The Evolution Plus starts at £23,495 in the UK. The Techno Plus, £25,995, and the Iconic Plus, £27,995. I would say this car is probably worth that. There are other rivals that might have more kit and better kit that are not as engaging to drive that you can get for a similar price. They might also be bigger. This one doesn't have that much space in the back, but you can probably get a lot of money off that price. So you can get the EV Grant, for example. It's about £3,400, I think, would make that considerably less. You'd probably get some discounts at dealers as well. I think when you get this car closer towards £23,000, it starts to make a lot more sense. If you want a car that is enjoyable to drive and engaging, not overly complicated, and if you can charge at home, I would say it's well worth it. It's good to have that character that other brands, Chinese brands at least, cannot offer. It's a fun, engaging, it's a dependable car, at least in the time that I've had it for this week. It's predictable. It's what you expect from a Renault, and that's kind of what I like about it. We had a lot of Renaults in our family, enjoyed all of them. But yeah, you might miss out on some things. That's really up to you whether you want to go for those things. But it's got character and it is fun to drive. And for that reason, I think it's probably quite decent. So that's it for our review of the Renault 4. Interesting car, this one, honestly. It does have some foibles. The reversing camera is spectacularly bad. The 3 stalks on the side of the steering wheel is complicated and frustrating. Drive Selector doesn't always give you what you want when you want it. Rear seat space isn't great. There's quite a bit of plastic in there. But you know what? I don't think any of that matters, because this car has got things that Chinese cars don't have. I mean, it drives really well, which most Chinese cars don't. It's engaging, it's familiar, it's fun, and it's zippy and interesting. It's got really good efficiency. It got me all the way from London to here on a single charge, which Renault said it couldn't do, but it did. And then, of course, it's got character and identity, something unique about it that 99% of Chinese cars don't have. And I think the kind of people who are going to buy this car, that's what they want. They want something familiar and dependable. They don't necessarily need all the high tech. They don't necessarily need a lot of space in the back. They want something that does what it says in the tin and gives them a little bit of identity at the same time. I don't know what it is about this car. It's going to sound very cliche, but it has that je ne sais quoi. It's got something that I can't quite put my finger on, but I really like it. And you know what? I think it's also great value for money. For the price that you pay for this, I think you get a pretty decent, fun car that you'll kind of learn to love. You might not like it straight away, but I think you will afterwards. And that's a quality that a lot of cars don't have. Thank you very much for watching. If you do, thank you for subscribing. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up so more people can see the cool, quirky cars coming out of Europe. And as ever, we'll catch you next time.